of the big projects I still have left to tackle is this kitchen. This is how the kitchen looked when I bought the house. And the list of things that is wrong with it is real long. The cabinets are dated and kind of ugly. That island smack in the middle, I don't even know what is happening there. That's where the cooktop is. It's right in the middle. The floor is bad. The appliances are bad. So there's a lot that needs to be done in here. And obviously I don't have a crazy budget with which to do it. So here's my game plan. I plan to remove that corner cabinet where the wall oven is, and I'm gonna wrap the counter around so that it's on that wall that you can see right there. That's where the new stove is gonna go. The refrigerator needs to be replaced, mostly so that it doesn't stick out 6 inches. That island and the upper cabinets, those are immediately going. And then I'm gonna paint and just try to bring everything up to speed aesthetically. I kind of love the demo stage of any project because I don't have to think about anything. I have to figure out how to do it safely and not electrocute myself, but I know that everything needs to go. So the first step in here was to remove the vent. I'm removing the crown molding so that I can figure out how to get those upper cabinets out of the way. I'm removing the cooktop. The only bugaboo for removing the island and the lowers was that there was electricity going into both of these, and the big electrical wire had been sort of sent through all the cabinets. So I just had to kind of go slowly so that I could figure that out. I'm removing the counters here. Did I mention the counters? They're awful. They're going to be replaced. I'm using my Dremel just to release the counters. It was adhered to the base cabinet with silicone, which is typical. So again, I just needed to release it, and then I was able to wiggle it loose. It weighed a ton. I was able to kind of finagle it off of the base cabinet, and I dragged it into the other room, but thankfully my contractor was able to help me get this into the dumpster and out of the house. Here I am removing the lower cabinet. This is me negotiating the electrical wires that are going through it. I was finally able to figure it out. Once I removed the lower cabinet, it was clear that they had installed the floor around it, which was kind of annoying. It just meant that I was going to have to figure out a way to patch that floor so that I could float my adhesive tiles on top of it. I figured it out, but I had to remove all the braces and stuff that they had put when they installed that island. Why they felt like that was the best place for an island, I don't even know. If you're standing and cooking, you can't even go to the sink, you can't get through to the powder room, you can't open the dishwasher. Ugh, it was so bad. You're getting a closer view of the crown that was installed all throughout the kitchen. It's really detailed. There's a lot going on. So that is not gonna come back. I don't know that I could copy this even if I wanted to, but that's out of here. It's pretty typical for houses that are older than like the 1970s to have some sort of asbestos in them. If it's not in the tile, it's often in the adhesive under the tile. I'm hopeful that maybe this is a more modern renovation, so this is not, but I ordered this from Amazon, so we shall see. I don't know why I thought I would be like swabbing something. I think I'm going to be cutting off a chunk of that. I was pretty confident that this top layer of flooring would not have asbestos. I was led to believe that the kitchen that you see in front of you was put in sometime in the late 70s, early 80s. That is past the time of asbestos, and this gray floor, I think, was added at that point. But I did go ahead and I cut out a sample and I sent it away just to make sure, because I knew I was going to be removing it. So that's what you see me doing here. The floor situation was kind of uncharted territory. I knew that I was going to float an adhesive peel and stick tile on top of it, a tile that I have used in my own home. I can attest to the fact that it is real sticky. There were so many places that were peeling off really easily that at first I kind of thought that maybe the whole thing would just peel off. That turned out not to be the case. So on I went to the underlayment, and in theory, this should have come off pretty easily, but I cannot tell you how many staples were used. There were so many, I've never seen so many staples in my life. I got this staple remover to start with. it sucks. Don't use this one. Use these nippers that I'm gonna show you next. These ones worked beautifully. It was still a fussy job, but I don't know, I listened to a book on tape and whatever. Today is a kitchen day. My dream would be to get this floor prepped for my tile and not have to bring in another layer of underlayment. I removed a layer of underlayment. The more I'm on the floor scraping, the more I realize how many fussy little cuts I'm gonna have to make. And I don't do well with fussy. It's not my strong suit. I know I have to clean it regardless, so I will reevaluate once I finish scraping all of this schmutz off. I talked about my favorite little accessory. It's that brush that clips into my drill. I can put down any sort of cleaning solution I want, and then I just use my drill to scrub away. I mean, it's almost as good as new. Am I right? Here I am bringing in the new cabinets. I'm using just basic cabinets from the Home Depot. I'm not going to use the doors or the drawer front, so I just need the cabinet boxes. I got one blind corner cabinet that will sort of tuck into that space that we left when we pulled out the corner. And then the goal is to have the new stove sit between this and another cabinet that I'm going to bring in. I'm going to have my contractor go ahead and level and anchor these just to make sure they are set. I'm going to have everything templated, and I trust him a lot more than I trust me, given how wonky the floor is. You can see that there's a couple different layers of flooring that he has to navigate. So again, he's going to come in and set these cabinets so that we are ready for templating. The plan for the day is to get these floors prepped. Figuring out the floor was one of the bigger stressors for me. I have used the adhesive tiles that I was planning on bringing in, and I can attest to the fact that they are super sticky, but I was putting them down on a clean floor. And as you can see, the floor in this kitchen was clean and ready to go in some places, but not in others. So I was trying to figure out what to do with the vinyl that had peeled away. So you can see me using a patching compound first. I used that on the smaller places and on the edges where it felt like it might peel away. And then I came in with this self-leveling concrete. I've never used this before. It took a little bit of getting used to. I found that you needed to have it pretty watery, and I didn't mix up enough at first, or I didn't mix it up watery enough at first. Obviously, you want to pour it and have it self-level. So I had to help it along. Ultimately, it worked perfectly, but I definitely learned as I went. I had to scramble and mixed a little bit more than I thought I needed, and it ended up working great, but that was a learning curve. I have been away from the flip house for a couple of weeks, but it has been for a terrific reason. They have been doing the floors. What I have done is I have labeled all the cabinet doors and the drawer fronts. I am super excited because they are templating on Monday. So my contractor has gone ahead and set the new cabinets in place. I'm using budget cabinet boxes again and replacing the doors and the drawer fronts. I will bring in a new light fixture. Obviously, there will be a really fun backsplash. And then this wall over here, I have a ductless exhaust system that can mount on this wall so that we don't have to figure out how to run a duct or an exhaust line. I was told before I bought this house that because of its age, the one thing I should avoid at all costs is opening up walls, because you just don't know what you're gonna find. And I have taken that to heart. This will be open shelves back in there, which isn't ideal, but because of the space, there wasn't any corner cabinet that was quite right unless I went custom, and that was big bucks. I am keeping the existing cabinet boxes. They are in great shape. They are a custom size. There's no reason to replace them, but I am removing the crown molding. It was super detailed. There was no way I was going to replicate it, and honestly, I just didn't love it. So I'm going to remove it before I address the cabinet boxes. So I am lightly sanding them all, and then I'm going to go back, and I'm using a liquid deglosser. When I did my research online, this was something that people suggested. So I'm using that. I'm wiping down all the cabinet surfaces, and then I am going to prime them, let the primer set up, and then I'm using a paint intended for cabinets so that there's a nice self-leveling quality. You won't see the brush marks, and it'll dry nice and hard. I am slowly working my way through these cabinets. Getting rid of the pine color was already an improvement, even though the rest of the space is a disaster. Counters are going in. Once counters are in, that means that I can work on backsplash. So I can do a backsplash here. My contractor and the electrician need to mount the vent, and then I can tile here. Baby steps. Try to get in close because look at it. Oh, isn't that pretty? Appliances are coming in a week or so. Ooh, we're getting there. Adding a backsplash is a pretty inexpensive way to really elevate the space too. I am using super budget subway tiles here, but I am installing them vertically and stacked, which gives it a slightly more elevated modern look in my opinion. I wanna say I spent $400 on all of these tiles. I got them from Floor & Decor, so they were really budget friendly, and I think they look really chic. I started to tile under the window, and you can see as I did this first cut that I didn't love the way they were lining up with that lower piece of trim. They were sticking out a little bit. It was sort of a funky cut. So I ended up just removing the trim itself. I looked on Pinterest and made sure that it wasn't crazy to have the tiles going right up to the windowsill. And I found plenty of images that showed something similar. So with that trim out of the way, it was super easy just to cut straight across the tile. And I installed them right under the window, and it's looking good. I'm getting better at tiling. I am not great. Mostly I just make a super mess, but I feel confident in what I'm doing and I'm doing everything right. It's not as smooth as I'm sure a professional tiler would be, but I'm getting better. See? That doesn't look so bad, right? Here are all my new cabinet doors. I got these from the Home Depot. They are unfinished, so I knew I was gonna paint them. They are just a clean, chic shaker cabinet. I was able to custom order every cabinet exactly to the size I needed, and I used my existing cabinets to help me with that so that it was really a one-to-one. It was an easy thing to order. And I followed a ton of tutorials. I have never painted cabinets, but prep is key. I would have loved to bring these into my garage or set them up somewhere to spray them, but it was really cold, so that wasn't an option. This is just the dining room, and I was able to go through and hand sand them all. I cleaned them all off with the tack cloth. I primed them. Here you can see me measuring for hinges. I'm using the Craig cabinet hinge jig. It was so easy to use, and because I saved all my existing cabinets, I just used the same hole placement for the hinges. And again, it was really easy. So once all the holes were drilled, you can see me going back in to continue painting. The kitchen is still a disaster, but we're getting there. I had been waiting for my contractor to mount the ductless vent above where the stove is gonna go. They had to open up the wall to find a stud. So there you can see it in place. Obviously there's a little bit more duct to install above it, but this was enough for me to get started on my tiles. You saw me just there installing the Schluter edge that's gonna go on that corner so that you don't see the edge of the tile. And now I'm ready to install one of my favorite details in the whole house. I think this blue is so beautiful. It's a larger subway tile. I'm installing it the same way, vertical, stacked. Again, this is from Floor & Decor. It was really cost effective, and I think it is so beautiful. I wanted to bring in a little bit of color, not too much to scare off potential buyers, but just enough. And I think that this is a really beautiful feature. I just was so happy putting these up. This was like the last piece. Here I am installing the hinges. You can see that I'm sort of moving back and forth. I would do a little something in the kitchen and then come into the dining room and continue painting the cabinets, so on and so forth. One thing I would have done differently, I don't think I appreciated how much wiggle room there were in cabinet hinges, and I would have labeled each hinge specifically for each cabinet door. I had to do quite a bit of little maneuvering and adjustments once I installed the cabinets so that they would open and close evenly. So I think it would have saved me time just to label the hinges from the jump. I am still working in the kitchen. Today, I am finally tackling the floor. I have been a little intimidated by the floor, not because of what I have to do to it, only because I just don't know how the product will respond to the substrate. I am putting an adhesive vinyl tile onto this floor. I have used this tile in my own home, and I can attest to the fact that it is sticky, but you are meant to put it on a smooth, clean surface, and this will be clean, but it is a combination of existing vinyl tile, that brick you see there, and then there were places where that tile was damaged, and so I put a self-leveling finish, which should be fine. I am going to prime the finish because that is concrete and it has a little bit more texture, it's a little more porous. So today, what I am essentially doing is I am cleaning this floor within an inch of its life, and then I'm going to prime the concrete. I think the primer may have to dry longer than I have, but I'm hoping that tomorrow I can come through and lay the tile. I think that'll go pretty quickly. So today is a prep day. You can see that I went ahead and I dry fit all these tiles to start, just so I had a sense of where everything was gonna go, and then I was ready to install. Even though the floor was super clean, I went ahead and I wiped down every inch of it right before I put my adhesive tile in place. I'm crazy about how these are looking. They were really easy to install. They're super easy to cut. All you need is a straight edge and a utility knife, and then you can just kind of snap them where you want it to go. The last step in this kitchen, well, the second to last step, was grouting. You can see that I have painted everything. There's a new light, there's a new faucet, the appliances have been moved in, and you'll notice right there, my contractor came in and installed the floating shelves. I am caulking, and we are done. Can you believe this kitchen looks the way it does? Close your eyes. Remember that weird island, the aggressive pine, the wall oven. There was so much going on in here. 3 layers of floor. And now I am so proud of this space. This kitchen is the biggest transformation in the house, if you ask me. This is a kitchen I would use on a daily basis. It is fresh, it is clean, it is modern, it is useful. There is plenty of counter space. There is enough cabinet space. This house is not a house for 20 people. This is a house for 2 people, 3 people, 4 people. There's enough room to work in this kitchen. I put a little utility cart there. Certainly the new homeowners could have something similar to give them an extra surface. You could put a couple bar stools around it. There's lots of options for this space. The stove and the refrigerator are from the Home Depot. They couldn't have been easier to work with. I also used their kitchen department to help template and pick out that countertop, which I am crazy about. All in all, I am delighted with how this space turned out. Before, it was dark and dated. It had sort of a weird layout. I don't think it was particularly useful. The refrigerator stuck way out from the wall. And now it is a chic, modern, useful, utilitarian kitchen. And you know what they say, kitchens sell houses, so let's hope that's true. All right, we are so close to the finish line. Thank you for following along, and thanks you all for watching.